CBS News correspondent Natalie Brand is at the White House with more on this. Natalie, President Trump continues to lash out at U.S. allies who have rejected his calls to help reopen the Strait of Hormuz. What are you hearing?
Yeah, the president and the administration have expressed deep frustration with U.S. allies, particularly NATO allies, for not helping to secure the Strait of Hormuz. The president argues that these countries depend on that strait for oil and commercial traffic much more than the United States. He's called out, in addition to NATO allies, he's called out Japan, Australia, and South Korea. We have a new social media post from the president this morning, which says, I wonder what would happen if we finished off what's left of the Iranian terror state and let the countries that use it, we don't, be responsible for the so-called strait. That would get some of our non-responsive allies, he uses quotation marks around allies, in gear and fast. Now, Thursday, while meeting with the Irish Prime Minister, he also, repeatedly talked about his disappointment with NATO allies, talked about U.S. support for Ukraine, saying that when the U.S. needs help, they don't seem to be there. Take a listen to part of his comments.
NATO's making a very foolish mistake, and I've long said that, I wonder whether or not NATO would ever be there for us. So this was a great test, because we don't need them, but they should have been there.
Now, European allies, for their part, say they don't want to be drawn into this war. The EU's foreign policy chief said this is not Europe's war, although we know that foreign ministers are talking about ways to try to reopen the Strait of Hormuz to traffic, but they've expressed they want to do so diplomatically. Vlad and Adriana.
All right. So as we've been reporting, Natalie, the president's counterterrorism director has resigned over the war with Iran. The president made a post about Joe Kent. Joe Kent, in a letter of resignation, says that he believes, at least as far as he understands, that we were not in imminent danger of being attacked by Iran. He also criticized the United States for suggesting that we were attacking Iran because we were doing so at the request of another foreign power. So what did the president say about all that?
Yeah, well, we have a new post from the president on this topic, and the administration, dug up an old social media post by Kent himself, who, note, is a combat veteran, retired Green Beret. This is a post back from 2020, posted following the U.S. strike that killed Iranian General Soleimani during Trump's first term, in which Kent said he should not sit and wait for the next attack, wipe out Iran's ballistic capability, and get our troops out of Iraq. They are only targets now. So the president there trying to show that at that time, Kent seemed to advocate for military action against Iran's weapons, even though now in his resignation letter, he's making it quite clear that he's against this war, again, blaming saying there was not an imminent threat, blaming pressure from Israel. This is no doubt going to come up during the worldwide threats hearing over on Capitol Hill, which will feature Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, testifying. Kent was a top aide to her.
Yeah, in his resignation letter, he also notes that he is a Gold Star husband. His wife
was killed in a terrorist attack.
Yes, and he says, quote, in a war manufactured by Israel, which is really strong language. He deployed 11 times. But what's interesting is that people on both the left and the right in Congress are critical of him.
They're criticizing the fact that there's some who say that remark about Israel is anti-Semitic, and there are others who have pointed out that even prior to his appointment, that he, and Natalie can expound on this, had believed in a lot of controversial and sort of conspiracy-minded theories.
Yeah, he was a candidate years ago, and during that time, on the campaign trail, this was in southern Washington state, a lot came up about his comments, belief in conspiracy theories. Some accused him of aligning with white nationalist groups. So that definitely came up years ago on the campaign trail. Some are taking his comments about Israel in this resignation letter as anti-Semitic. Obviously, he's kind of been this controversial figure, but his resignation really highlights the divide that we're seeing within some supporters of President Trump and the MAGA movement about the decision to go to war.